Registered, unregistered 4-wheel සහ 3-wheel සඳහා Fintrix easy leasing වසන්තය අනුමැතිය දිනකින්.
Minister, my question is actually about the WCT issue. So following last week's cabinet decision, India's Ministry of External Affairs in New Delhi has said that your reference in the decisions to the Indian High Commission approving Adani Group's investment in WCT is factually incorrect. I wondered if you would like to respond to that statement by the MEA spokesman in New Delhi.
As we know, Indian government nominated Adani Group of companies to invest in ECT of Colombo Port. Thereafter, Sri Lankan government made a policy decision to develop the ECT by the Port Authority alone and to develop the WCT as a joint venture joint venture of Sri Lanka, India and Japan. By the time Sri Lankan government made that decision, Indian government had already nominated Adani Group of Company as their nominee for the ECT development. Therefore, Sri Lankan government assumed that this is the very same investment and only the change of the investment location. Therefore, Sri Lankan government assumed that this would continue as Indian government's nominee. So the Sri Lankan government continued their dialogue with Adani, assuming it is Indian government's nominee. Indian government has expressed that Indian government is not going to officially involve in these discussions about the joint venture. Therefore, anyway, Sri Lanka will continue its dialogue with Adani Group of companies with regard to the WCT.
Minister, sorry, just a follow-up. So, is it correct to say that the Sri Lankan government is comfortable speaking to private investor Adani Group from India, even without the involvement of the government of India? Is that correct?
It has already commenced.
Amal Jayasinghe, can you raise the question, Mr. Amal?
Yes, thank you very much, Nalaka. Minister Gammampila, it's a follow-up on Meera's question. Actually, what the Indian High Commission has said is, they are saying that the cabinet release claiming that Indian High Commission approved the investment is incorrect. Now, you're talking about the East Container Terminal, but this I suppose is a new one, the WCT. So, is the Indian High Commission getting it wrong, or did the cabinet sort of make a mistake? I mean, where exactly are we on the negotiations?
In a way, both statements are correct, because in fact, Indian government did not make any nomination for the WCT. To that extent, of course, Indian government stand is correct. Secondly, Sri Lankan government has said, or the cabinet spokesman has said that Sri Lanka is working with the nominee of the Indian government. Yes, it is also correct. Why? Indian government nominated Adani Group of companies for the investment in ECT of Colombo Port. So Sri Lankan government decided to change the venue from ECT to WCT without changing the investor already nominated by the government of India. That's why the government statement says they are working with the nominee. They are working with the nominee of the Indian government for the development of the WCT.
Yeah, just to clarify this, so it's right to say that the Adani was nominated for the East Container Terminal, but no one was nominated by India for the West Container Terminal.
That is true. That's what I explained. We
correct.
Decided to change the venue and decide to work with the nominee for the ECT of the Indian government for the WCT as well.
Yeah, now this is a tripartite agreement. So what has been the response of Japan?
To be very frank with you, it has never been. They have Sri Lanka Port Authority has sought or requested the Japanese government to nominate an investor for the WCT. I don't know the progress of that decision or the response yet.
Meera, you are having the follow-up question?
Yes, thank you, It's on the same issue. So now that the minister has confirmed that the Sri Lankan government is negotiating directly with the Adani Group without Indian government involvement in the WCT development project, could we also take it that Colombo is comfortable negotiating with Adani, a private investor who runs several other ports in India and in the region, although some in Sri Lanka have raised a conflict of interest issue, right? Are you comfortable giving majority stakes up to 85% to this group, which already runs other ports in the region? Aren't you worried about the conflict of interest that's apparent?
Well, Sri Lankan nationalist forces, as well as employees and trade unions of the Port Authority, were strongly of the view that ECT is a strategically important terminal, so it should not be developed by any company with conflict of interest. But here, WCT is not considered as important as the ECT. Therefore, their exposure to the port sector and their experience in port sector would be considered as a positive factor, not as a negative factor.
But aren't the WCT and ECT just on either side of the CICT? I mean, how is the strategic difference so much between two terminals that are fairly close to each other?
Well, ECT is the only terminal in Sri Lanka which can be used for back-to-back operations. So there are two harbors in Sri Lanka, Old Harbour and the New Harbour. Old Harbour's depth is only 14 meters, but New Harbour's depth is from 18 to 22 meters. So ECT is adjoining to the old port. So when there are vessels that, as you know, Colombo Port is a hub of transshipment in South Asia. So when Indian and Bangladeshi smaller ships come to the
Old port.
when smaller ships come to the SAGT, South Asian Gateway Terminal, the bigger ships in the ECT can immediately unload the cargo and load to the ships in the SAGT. That can be that's known as back-to-back operation. That can be done only at the ECT. That's why Sri Lankan nationalist groups as well as employees of the Port Authority are of the view that ECT is strategically important asset of Sri Lanka.
But yesterday, Minister, sorry, just to clarify one particular point you made, the morning newspaper has quoted trade unions at the Colombo port at saying that they are also opposed to Indian involvement in other ports. And actually, one report says that they are uncomfortable with negotiations directly with Adani Group without government involvement. So are the ports fully on board with the government decision yet? That's my question, really. Are the port unions fully on board?
When port unions were protesting against the Indian involvement in the ECT, they themselves proposed developing the WCT as a Sri Lankan Indian joint venture as a solution to the ECT crisis. So there may be several trade unions who are against this decision as well, but the majority are not against this decision because they themselves suggested developing WCT as a solution to the ECT issue.
Right. Thank you very much.
www.headlinenews.lk බලමුවෙන් ඉදිරියෙන්